Thank you all for coming, and I was so excited when Allison asked me to be her conversation partner here, because I loved her book and talk a little bit about how we know each other and how we're connected. But I think you wanted to start with a reading.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Of
It's
course.
such an honor. And Sophie and Zibby's books, thanks for having me. Okay, so I don't think there's too much I need to set up about what I'm going to read from. Just to say that this book is about 3 women who are somehow connected to like a Hollywood movie mogul. And I'm going to be reading a little passage from the perspective of Zan, who is his personal assistant. The door to Ted's office had been open when Zan left to ride with Holly to the conference, but it was closed now. He was inside, and the door itself seemed to thrum with his presence, as if he were supernatural and not just rich. Gabby was on her way for her interview. Zan tried to put herself in her girlfriend's shoes at the threshold of her first encounter with the man, but all she could remember was her own. 8 years ago, she'd held her breath as she walked into this office for her interview for the personal staff, having just been informed that the mysterious gazillionaire she was here to meet was none other than Ted Stabler. Zan had seen the ad in the back of the Chronicle of Higher Education dozens of times. Academics, musicians, poets, and artists encouraged to apply. And she'd laughed her head off, imagining the druggies she'd been kicking around with since college, administering anyone's life, least of all their own. After rehab, she'd applied on a lark, never dreaming the executive she'd flown cross-country to interview with was the director whose set she'd worked on as a PA the summer she turned 18. Would he recognize her? But then why would he? A dozen years had passed. At least 1,000 people had worked on the Starfighter too, and she had been a nobody. By day, an underpaid grunt on a film set, writing a script on her breaks. By night, a prettyish girl making extra cash modeling. Plus, she looked completely different now. She was an out dyke with a new name and a new attitude. No more Suzanne Feynman trying to get out from under her father's thumb. No more Susie with the long hair and the blank stare. No more drinking, no more drugs, no more waking up half-dressed and confused in a strange bed. Of course Ted didn't recognize that girl. That girl was a fuck-up. Someone this fortress had been designed to keep away from him. And it worked. That girl was long gone. She'd changed her name to Zan Klein, her mother's last name, and gone to Harvard to get most of a PhD in lit grit. She'd sobered up, wised up in more ways than one. Zan knew how lucky she was to have gotten this second chance. 5 more minutes until their 9:30 agenda call, when they would review his plans and priorities for the day. Sure, they could speak face-to-face about his agenda, but why? With the magic of technology, there was no need for Ted to look Zan in the eye, to read her cues and her body language, to sense when she grew nervous, bored, or frustrated. Likewise, with a wall and 15 feet of fiber optic cable between them, he could feel free to express his unvarnished opinions about everything, from the poor formatting of a research report on SAT tutoring for Flynn, to the lack of consistency among the travel team, who were supposed to follow an identical script on Ted's trips. So why were some of them punctual and invisible and others apologetic and annoying? To his request that the gym be wiped down and squeegeed within 15 minutes of Holly finishing her hot yoga, which fogged up the windows and left a gross residue of condensation and, he feared, sweat on all of the equipment. Over the phone or via email, Ted could say whatever he wanted. Not because he wanted to say these things, but because they were necessary. Over the phone or via email, it was irrelevant if the person on the other end was biting her tongue or burning with embarrassment or chewing her nails or tearing her hair out. In quiet corners of the staff, debates raged about why Ted was the way he was. Some said it was his upbringing. Raised as a latchkey kid in New York City by a young widow, Ted hadn't been coddled, so why should he coddle them? Some said he was a left brain in a town made for right brains. Some said it was the money, that he'd gotten so comfortable he'd forgotten how to feel. Some said he felt too much. Anyone who watched his films could plainly see his obsession with the human heart. Of course he would want to shield his. Others thought Ted was a skilled mimic, who could represent in film more emotions than he was capable of experiencing himself. They were all a little bit right as far as Zan was concerned. Still, he wasn't all bad. The upside of his dispassionate evaluation of people was this. He didn't give a damn what you looked like, if you were beautiful or thin or blonde, whether you wore the right labels or had holes in your shirt. He didn't care if you were gay or black or tattooed. He didn't care who you knew or if you knew absolutely no one. All he cared was that you were smart. He paid you to think, to solve problems the way he would if he couldn't afford to outsource them. If you got that right, you stayed. If you got it wrong, you were out.
All right, so I'll come back to the question that I was going to ask, but I want to talk, since you read from Zan's perspective, you once worked as a personal assistant, correct?
I did.
So how did that, I'm sure that was a big influence on her character and the Holly and Ted and just everything that we see in their household and all of their idiosyncrasies. It's kind of fun to see, you know, what are rich people with all this power focused on. So was that a lot of fun for you, or was it traumatic to go maybe? How was that?
Yeah, it was definitely fun to do. And then, but there was also like, I mean, I guess the thing I need to say, like, just from the top is like, is this bitch? You know? And so it was less about like writing about any specific experience I had or my bosses or my coworkers, and more about just knowing it was like a really incredible circumstance to be in. And then as I sort of got older and went through different phases of my life, thinking about times when I had people working for me in the home, like it's a really just it's such a vulnerable relationship. You know, you have to put so much trust in somebody that comes into your house. And you know, when my daughter was young, cared for her, and you know, I mean, she would walk in and I would like still be nursing, you know, or we'd be like passing notes to each other about like how many poops my daughter had, you know, like it's intimate. So writing about like those weird boundaries and how well you can know each other, you know, you can know each other down to like some really fine details, but then you can also still not quite be seeing each other, know each other, but you don't see each other. So it just felt like fertile ground.
Yeah, I enjoyed reading about those relationships and how you explored those relationships. So I have a couple of questions about the characters and the plot and all that, but I thought I'd share how we are connected. So we both have the same editor at Graydon House. Her name is Melanie. It would have been great if she could come out here, but she's way over in New York. So
well, shout out if she's watching the live stream.
Oh my gosh, you're live stream? I didn't even.
And I'm sorry. I'm sorry to my daughter for talking about it.
So well, great. So maybe you can share a little bit about your this is your debut, correct? So maybe share a little bit about your publishing journey and how you've connected to Melanie and Graydon House.
Yeah, I mean, Melanie was amazing, and you know, bless my agent for knowing that we should be sending her a copy of the book, because she's got like that brain for like plot and structure that I have, and that, you know, it's very hard to find somebody who will like jump in the foxhole with you where it's just a nightmare, but like get down into the nitty gritty of the details and like have them find like a steel trap for all the details. And so that was really helpful. And you know, the book is set over the course of one day, and it rotates through these three women's point of view. And so keeping track of when you were jumping and thinking about like how much territory you actually have to work with, like they're pretty like serious constraints. I can't just jump into next week if I feel like it, because I want somebody to like get over something and talk about the feeling they have then, you know, like it has to happen in that time. And so figuring out like where a certain scene is and is it happening a little bit too early, like it was great to work with somebody like Melanie who I felt like has a good feel for like, you know, that stuff. And when we could talk about how to move things, it wasn't like all, you know, the structure, it wasn't like a house of cards falling down and I had to build it up. It was like game of Jenga to that point. Right back there.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's what it was like for me. But what was it like for you working with her? How did you guys? Diane's book is a Read with Jenna book, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful family story. So what's it like for you guys?
Same. She had always had a lot of great ideas and just pushed, you know, this was my debut as well, and I hadn't really understood that editor-writer relationship, so it was a incredible experience just being asked kind of like probing questions and these what ifs, and I felt like she really helped me improve the story, the writing, the book, and so yeah, it's great having that type of person involved. Yeah. Well, wonderful. So we're celebrating the paperback release, which is awesome. Not everybody gets a paperback, so I mean, it's wonderful. So what? Well, maybe we should have you talk about the plot. So some people might have read the hardcover. Maybe you haven't. Yeah. And if you haven't read it yet, then the paperback is here now. It's the perfect season for a paperback. Take to the beach or on vacation, easy to, you know, travel with.
Spill things on it, not feel too bad.
Right. That's why we love paperbacks. And so, but for those who haven't read this story yet, maybe we can have you talk about these three women.
Yeah, so the three women are all kind of a work wife in a sense. Zan is Ted's personal staff. Holly is his wife, so obviously she's got a load to carry there. And then Phoebe is a woman from his past, and you know, they were business partners, perhaps probably more. And so she comes back to town. She left town 20 years ago. She comes back on this particular day. She's a filmmaker, and she has a project that she's trying to get distribution for. And so it's a really important day for her. But in the year that she has been gone, he has like launched into the stratosphere. And so there's one day, there's a conference in the morning, there's this like big Hollywood party that's being hosted at their house that night. Zan is in charge of not just pulling off Ted's day, which can alone be a lot, but also making sure that the party goes off without a hitch too. But there are reasons that Holly and Phoebe don't want it to go off without a hitch. So,
yeah. Right. And as you noted, it takes place over a day, which is, as you said, it's hard enough to do that, you know, with just one character perspective, but you had to weave these three characters together, and also with Ted being involved in multiple people in their stories. And so you talked about working with Melanie, but why did you want to set it in a 1 day period?
Yeah, I think what I realized is like that's like the time period is something that I need to decide very early on when I'm thinking of a book, because otherwise a book can be anything, it can go anywhere. I don't understand how people do that.
Yeah.
You know, like there needs to be a start and a finish.
Yeah.
And I know that you can organize your book in lots of different ways, thematic and whatnot, but for me, for whatever reason, time period is really important. I need to figure that one out quickly. And so I just kind of knew I always wanted it to be a day. I think because the perspective that I wrote first was Sam's. And so it's her work day. Mm-hmm. So it should be one wild and crazy work day, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe if I had started with one of the other characters, I might have wanted to like back up the runway a little bit and show them leading up to the big day. But since I was always first with Zan, I knew I wanted it to be one crazy insane birthday.
And I think the clock is very effective in, what you were investigating these characters and all their development. Something that these women sort of, to some degree, have in common is that they are people pleasers. And sometimes I say, I'm a people pleaser, and well, what's so bad about that? But it can be bad sometimes if people take advantage of you, or if for a lot of different reasons. So what did you want to explore with this? Or do you see them also that same way? I think I read something that you mentioned this.
Yeah. I definitely am a people pleaser, for sure. And I think if you are a people pleaser, it's easy to get drawn to this kind of work because that's your professional life. That your resume is the fact that you're a people pleaser.
Yes.
What do you want me to do? I'll do it. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
You want me to go over there right now? Cool. Oh, you want me back over there? Okay, I'll go do that. Like whatever, it's fine. I'm here for you. And in that world, that is sort of the balance. Like you agree to put your wishes aside. I think there are some. It can work in a lot of different ways, and there can be ways where your ambition and your skills are nurtured and fostered. But I think there are a lot of times where it's I just need you to come in here and care about my life as much as I do. Please don't care about anything else. Maybe just care about my life right now.
Yeah.
So but it is hard because you still are a human being. Everybody's a full human being with or maybe that was fine for a while, but then you outgrow it,
right.
Or just the demands of your life go somewhere else. So I think that tension is really baked into that work, and so I definitely wanted to write that for sure. But I don't think all three of the characters are I don't see them as people pleasers the way that I am. I don't feel like any of them are nice, sweet, good girls. They're all a little, some of them are ornery and some of them are selfish and, but I think that women, no matter what, are usually asked to perform some emotional labor, frequently on behalf of men, especially white men.
Right.
And so you find the people-pleasing lane to steer into, whether it fits your personality or not. So, I wanted to think about the book.
Yeah. There's also there's a look at men behaving badly in some cases, and I'm guessing there was some influence from Me Too and other things that are happening in that it's very present in our lives. And
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was writing it post Me Too, and I wanted to set it a little bit post Me Too. It's not in the heyday of it. It's when some of the shoes have already dropped, and everybody's kind of looking around to see, are there more shoes? Do we care about the shoes still? Do we still care about them? Should we care about them? So I think that's another thing that all women can find a way to unfortunately. It's some more than others, but so that was
I saw a lot of connections. Even I worked at a college and at a health department, and not Hollywood, but still see some of these same patterns. So
I mean, it's about power, right? So just thinking a lot about power and all the different power dynamics, and in the book, not everybody is in the same side of the power imbalance depending on their relationship. Zan she's on the low end of the power scale with respect to Ted, but with her girlfriend, she's 15 years older than her. So there is a different power balance there too, and I think over the course of the book, she has cause to think about that more and think, why hasn't that more?
Well, it's set in beautiful Southern California. If you like books about Hollywood, it's a lot of fun. What made you want to write a book with this setting?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to do something completely unlike, my own background with personal assistant work. So, but in a place where I knew that there was that
Yes.
role. So
Lots of that.
but also I'm just maybe I'm a recovering entertainment junkie or just always an entertainment junkie. Like, can you ever stop being an entertainment junkie? I've always been following along with those stories, reading. I had subscriptions to all of them. I missed a flight once because I was reading. Yeah, Mom remembers this. I missed a flight because I was reading so. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it was really good.
Stanford and she missed a flight because of soap opera dive.
I know. Yeah. So so it was just sitting there.
Yeah.
It's like, come on, I'm gonna write about it.
It's a great place to write about, and just so many details that they're not exactly what we know, but they're very spot on. Like the fund, there's a fundraiser called Bump to Pump, and so I was watching a show that you might know with some sisters that are famous, and they were and some housewives, and they're doing all these fundraisers, and I'm like, just like the book, so all very relatable and fun.
Yeah, I mean, this world, it lends itself to a place where people would ask and expect you to make the impossible possible and on a moment's notice,
Wrangling animals for
yes, exactly. Like there's at the party they have a jungle nursery thing, so they have to get lots of animals to be there. Yeah. But I think about it a little bit too with Succession. That world could work for it too.
Mhm.
I mean, the episode where he wants he's doing a big presentation and he's like, let's build a house on the stage for tomorrow. It's like 12 hours away. He's like, don't tell me no.
Yeah.
So there are lots of different settings where you could do it, but this one felt like a fun one. Something I should make all those missed flights now.
So you wrote a really lovely author's note, and can you share a little bit about what you put in that note? It was a lot about why you wrote this.
Yeah, sure. And that was our editor, Melanie's idea. She was like, "Do you want to do this?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay." Really, it's called "Why I Wrote the Work Wife," and it's just to sort of talk about what brought me to to that kind of work, and talks a little bit about the people pleasing that we talked about, and about when you want to look for those power imbalances, you can see them everywhere.
Yeah.
And especially for a while in the late 2010s, they really were everywhere, right? I mean, what corner of society was this not happening in? In politics, movies, and academia, and just every single place where there are where there's one person high and one person low. So,
I wonder how people got away with it for so long, but yeah.
I mean, because they probably
still do.
It's it requires constant conversation around it. Otherwise, it just goes back and forth.
Well, considering the setting of the book and our current proximity to Hollywood, have you dream casted the work wife?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I definitely always thought of Sandra over Phoebe. I mean, she's amazing and such a great actress and a badass and the right age, which is my age, yeah. And let's see, Zan was the hardest one. It's who am I? I know Zan, but I don't necessarily, for a long time, I wasn't seeing Zan in pop culture, you know? Like the closest thing I could see in pop culture, but of course it was like the wrong era and everything, was like Jill Jet, you know? But do you guys know ER Fight Master? Wait, am I getting the first name right? Right? On Grey's Anatomy. I was like, yes. They're the Kai, the non-binary doctor that Tammy's like, who? And then let's see, Holly. I mean, there's so many people who could be Holly. Like, I mean, the person that I think of, although it's more from like when I first originally thought of Holly, and now it would probably be somebody different. But one of the people that I always thought of is like a Connie Britton, like a Mrs. Coach, like they're like her persona to the world is very like friendly and outgoing and relatable, but behind the scenes she's a little bit more like the White Lotus kind of thing.
Yes.
So,
I like it.
yeah. But I could never figure out Ted. I know.
I was gonna say,
but
but-
it is.
Well, I don't remember who I pictured. I pictured somebody.
Yeah.
I think I pictured a guy I know named Ted. I think.
Fair enough.
Made it easy.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I want to turn it over for questions from all of you, but I have what I call some fun and fast questions. So these are just quick and easy. And if you want to add anything on, that's fine. But
Okay.
All right. Hardcover reader, paperback, or e-reader?
Definitely not e-reader.
Okay.
Either hardcover or paperback. I
Okay.
mean, in my heart of hearts, I'm really a paperback because I'm on enchanted of a curse.
Yes.
And I wanted to be able to do that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, this is not here, but bookmarks, or do you
In my
Fold.
life, I have folded things,
Okay.
but I would prefer to use them.
okay.
If I thought it was bookmark.
While you write, do you need quiet or music or other sounds?
Mostly quiet. If it's music, it has to be like atmospheric, and I can like Sufjan Stevens is really good to write to because it's just a vibe. You know, if it's the right vibe. Sometimes it's not right, but mostly quiet.
Okay. Big screen or small screen?
Both.
Okay. Yeah.
Both. If I was on a desert island, I guess it would be TV.
Okay.
I could only choose one. So.
Right.
Yes. Okay.
Favorite writer of all time?
Jane Austen. Is that basic?
No. Not this. Who would you want as a personal assistant?
Probably anybody that I worked with.
Yeah.
Yeah. Worked with many awesome people for sure. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but I actually like really only need people to help me with like a few small tasks. Like the task I most want somebody to handle with, and the people I work with can handle way too much stuff, so they shouldn't be bothered with it. But I just need somebody to do like mail.
Okay.
You know, like just take things to the post office or FedEx or do my returns and stand in the line and all that stuff. That's-
No weird requests, like
Is
I'm
that a
very
weird one? I don't know.
I'm very particular about when I have my, just with Diet Pepsi, I have to have like a certain number of ice cubes in the
Yeah.
glass.
Did
And
somebody bring you Diet Coke or
no Diet, no.
Yeah.
Diet Pepsi,
Yeah.
6 ice cubes. I tell my kids and they're like, they don't care. They just think, so I have to do it myself. No, I have to do it myself because they're not gonna, they don't care, so.
Yeah.
Place you've never been that you would love to go to.
I haven't been to Vietnam.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
Wow.
Where do you write?
I write in our guest room, which is my office. But I have been writing on the bed lately, and my daughter keeps saying, "When are you going to use the desk?" I don't think it looks like work to her. But that's where the dog is comfortable.
Oh,
Because then she can be like in contact with my body better.
That's nice.
So that's okay. Yeah. What about you?
desk. If I get in the bed, then I fall asleep. So, yeah. Do you like to eat or drink anything while you write, or do you have a snack?
Not like a ritualistic snack.
Okay.
No. I mean, I did really tea is the thing.
Okay.
I've always got tea going.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite Hollywood adaptation of a book?
That's a good one. You know what I keep thinking about lately, because I think this was like the first adaptation that I like read and watched, was the Thornbirds.
Oh,
Because I
haven't
think
thought of
it
that
came
in a long
out
time.
in my lifetime, and I was visiting my Auntie Maggie that summer, and she read a lot of mysteries and romances, and she had Thornbirds.
Okay.
And so I read as far up to the book as the miniseries was going to play that night. I was, you know, like over the course of the week.
Yeah.
And I just remember there's this certain scene where, because the main character is also Maggie, right? Yeah, okay. So Maggie gets pregnant by the priest. I'm sorry, I'm spoiling it. Oh my goodness. And
You haven't seen it by now.
and so in the book, she has to like then go home and have sex with her husband to disguise the fact that she's gonna have a baby out of wedlock. That they don't care about that in the miniseries. She just like she puts on her best red dress and like really like puts on all this makeup and looks like a knockout. And I was like, oh, she's going to seduce him. And instead she just like shows up at the sugarcane field where he works, and she's like, meeting you, Luke. And then not a damn thing you can do. I'm like, that's not how it went. So I think that was the first adaptation. It was really good, but I was like, what?
I think you have another career, Julia. That's pretty good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about me? But you're going to be adapted, right?
Well, that's the.
That's the
I'm
hope?
like, that's the hope.
Okay, so we should stick with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just going to be amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I would love to turn it over to the wonderful audience who has joined us. Does anybody have a question?
Great question. Number one, would Brad Pitt and Reese Witherspoon work for Ted and Holly? That's question one.
Okay.
Or is Brad Pitt too young for this? I mean, I think but he's getting out there. So anyway, my second question is, how do you deal with writer's block? If you have writer's block.
Oh, you mean would they
Could
work
they
at being cast?
Could they be
casting
cast?
work? I
Yes.
thought you meant would they actually like work in the employ of
Oh
Holly? I was like,
no! In the movie version.
Yeah. Brad Pitt, I guess he could, sure.
I still think about Ted.
Like if he
But
says
they-
yes, don't turn it down.
Oh, well,
Holly is younger than me, and I feel like Reese is more my age. So like, you know, there needs to be like, I mean, do Brad and Reese, they look more like peers to each other, are they not? Maybe he's older than her. Well,
Oh, I think he's older.
you think he's older? Okay, so maybe yeah. we can consider them both.
Thank
Put them on the
Thank
list.
you. Thank you.
And then, sorry, what was the other one? Writer's block? Or?
Yeah. How do you deal with writer's block?
If you
have
ain't
it.
got time for it, really. Like, you know, nobody has time for it. Honestly, watch me go home and start having it. But I feel like writer's block was something that happened more when I was younger, and I could sort of get up in my head about things. But then, like, once I became a mom and I had like limited amount of time to make things work, like, I just had to like come in with a plan and like follow the plan. And like, I can get stuck with something and feel like it's not working and like hate myself about it, but I don't have like writer's block in the same way where now truly nothing is happening. Because
Real quick, you ain't got time for that because you have another book coming out.
I do, yeah.
Can you share a little bit about that?
Sure. So it's called April, May, June, July. And so those are the names of the 4 characters, siblings named April, May, June, July. Those are the months in which it's told because again, I need a time frame. And so yeah, they're grown-up siblings who have become kind of estranged from each other. They come back together during these 4 months because one of them is getting married, but also 10 years earlier, their father disappeared while he was serving overseas. And so there's a new clue in the case. So that it's like you've got the wedding coming and the disappearance, like that riddle to solve, and that's what it's about.
Very cool. That sounds awesome. Can't wait to read it. Question.
How did you come up with your characters? Is it somebody that you know, different people that you know, and also if they are, would anybody recognize them?
Yeah. They are definitely nobody that I know because I signed many NDAs. So. No, but truthfully, it's more. I mean, I think everybody like to an extent, probably every writer. There's like this percentage is like me, and this percentage is that person that I saw that one time and always wondered about, and then this percentage is just true invention, you know. So yeah, I think it's kind of a mix of those things.
Here and then back there.
I want to build on that.
Okay.
So,
let's build on
well,
it.
in that, one, I just had so much fun reading it, and it's just wonderful. And then there's this added layer of me knowing you from way back in college and feeling like nobody else could have written this book. Like, it feels so quintessentially this marriage of your love of entertainment and pop culture and of real social issues and things that are important. And so I just thoroughly enjoyed that. It got me thinking about, okay, so what comes next then for Alison as she's writing, as she's so beautifully entwined these pieces of herself in this book. How do you, either in this new book or other things you're writing, call upon different values you have or parts of who you are that you think you want, maybe either overtly or covertly embedded in your life?
Yeah, I think there's always some little seed and something that you're like, it's so much more complicated than it looks, and so that's why I want to write about it. With this book, it was like truly just like I happened to have this like very specific experience that was like too bizarre not to do something with. But the next one, I just wanted to write about siblings, but I didn't want to write about my own. I have 2 older brothers, so in the book it's 3 sisters and a little brother, and I wanted to like make sure I changed it up so much that I wasn't writing about my own specific relationships, but siblings are just, it's the longest relationship you'll have. So I wanted to do something about that. And that one I also, the father goes missing because he goes to Iraq as a civilian contractor. And I also just wanted to think about like what are the things that we as Americans don't let ourselves think about, like, and what if you have to think about them? But so I feel like it's hard for us to think about the war, the many wars that are just that get fought in our names. And so this is a family that's thinking about them, that even they aren't thinking about it all the time. It comes near and it goes far, and we put it away and then we think about it again. And so I wanted to write about that, but not in a heavy-handed kind of way, like in a way where it still feels like it's blended into your lives. And, so I hope that
And then you had one in the
I was curious if you always knew when you're a writer, wanted to know a little more about the process of how you make yourself write.
I did not always know that I was going to be a writer. I thought I was going to be a doctor. I was pre-med in college, and then was like, I just thought that was like a very good thing to want to be, but I didn't feel like I actually had any particular amazing aptitude for it compared to all the other people in my classes who seemed to. But I knew I really loved stories. I knew I was missing planes to read Soap Opera Digest. Like soap operas were really my thing as a kid, and I was obsessed with them. And
which one?
all my children,
Okay.
we were like an ABC family. Yeah. But eventually I watched any of them, like because I was reading about it in Soap Opera Digest. I was like, wow, that looks really good. What's going on there? Like, I'll watch that. So, yeah, I really cared about the stories, and eventually I was like, if I could make a life that was around what I really enjoyed, like honestly, it's that. So that's when I took my first writing class was in college, and it was because I knew I was watching so it's wild train of doctor.
Sounds like Shondaland.
Yeah. So honestly, like ER came out like when we were RAs, wasn't it? It was like my last year, and I often thought if ER had come out earlier, I would have just stayed with medicine and done that because I would have seen it in a kind of like narrative way. And the same thing with Grey's Anatomy. I probably would have stayed with it, but if there wasn't a really good medical show until too late, I'd already abandoned it by then. So anyway, that's how I did not see myself becoming a writer. And then my process is well, it took me a while to figure out like what kind of writing I like to do, and realizing that novels were sort of the right length and scope and space for me. And so I do kind of need to figure out like who are the characters, what is the time frame, what are the big ideas that I'm playing with, and one of them has to be in the shape of a plot. You know, something like there's a big party or somebody's worried about getting fired or there's, you know, or dad has disappeared, you know, let's figure out where dad went. You know, there has to be some kind of thing like that. So I have to figure out I have to get all that down and then get it into some kind of like order of like scenes. And then I just try and go start to finish. And then many drafts.
Other questions?
This is not about the books, but I just wanted to see, how did you land on 6 ice cubes?
Why is 6 the right number?
Experimentation, just the rate of how quickly the
Melting.
ice melts and how does it stay
High up in the
cold.
glass.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, in a specific glass. Yeah.
Right, like
Yeah.
It's like a wine glass.
Oh, fancy.
It's important stuff. Really quickly, going kind of connected to your question with craft. So you said you took a class in college, but have you done anything else craft-wise to really, you know, kind of not learn how to write, but to improve your writing or to help you learn how to plot, you know,
For sure.
something like this?
Yeah, I went to grad school and I got
Okay.
an MFA.
Got it. Okay.
So, but that was a long time ago, and I feel like the big thing, the way you learned was just in workshop.
Mhm.
So it was still kind of just like you get the gestalt of it, as opposed to like do this, do these things. You know, like I feel like I graduated and I still didn't know some basic things, like, you know, what is like theme versus style, or you know, like there were a lot of proper terms I feel like I couldn't use, but I liked reading everybody's stories and getting a feel for like what worked and what didn't work. So, but I had a great writing group. One of my friends in my writing group, her mom was here. And so we have shared our work the whole time, and that has helped just like as our writing has like grown and developed to still be able to share feedback is really helpful. And then there's this book that everybody probably has a writing book that they really like. And for me, it's The Anatomy of Story by John Truby. I love that one. Like, I just feel like it's very helpful. And if you go through it start to finish while you're thinking about a particular project, you will you'll finish the book and your thoughts will be more organized and you'll be ready to go a little bit more. So I feel like that one's really good.
Excellent.
Do you read that one too?
I have it. I think I have a lot of craft books that I like read like a page and I'm like, okay, I should be writing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So, but I definitely will maybe read a little bit more at least.
If you have like a messy very draft where you're like, I don't quite know what this is yet, but I know it's these characters or whatever, and then you read it, that's a great time to come to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Any other questions before we wrap up and let you talk to Allison and get your book signed. All right. Thank you so much.
And we have both Diane and Allison's books available to buy up here, and Mike can help check you all out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alison, that was just wonderful.
Oh,
And your